It's always nice when you're doing a sponsored video and the game happens to be something that turns out quality, and this is one of those occasions.
Yeah, we're looking at Big Helmet Heroes today, which is a great name, but a very good game. This is a beat 'em up, and I do love my beat 'em ups, and this is very good. Really very impressed with this one, and we'll dive into exactly why in a moment. But as always with sponsored videos, we will have a couple of codes to give away, so just down below stick your favourite beat 'em up game and why, and we will pick some people at random.
Alright, Big Helmet Heroes. Alright, what's it all about? Well, let's find out.
Let's start with story then. There is a story there. You're playing as classic knights, the titular helmeted heroes, on a quest to save a princess, albeit it does go awry. And this story is told through animated cutscenes without any dialogue.
Yeah, it has that feeling a little of a Lego game in the way it presents its narrative. No voices, none of that, you know, just sounds and things like that.
Yeah, the early Lego games before they introduced speech.
Yeah.
And it's done through like physical humour, physical comedy, which works well enough for what it's trying to achieve.
Slapstick, if you will.
Slapstick for sure, yeah.
Gameplay-wise, this surprised us because we weren't expecting a beat-em-up.
No, I must be honest, I assumed this was going to be a 3D platformer. Don't know why, I just did. But it's certainly a beat-em-up. It's played on a 3D plane, as most of them are, albeit this is with 3D character models as opposed to the 2D hand-drawn or sprite characters that you generally find in beat-em-up games.
They've definitely taken some inspiration from the likes of Castle Crashers. You can kind of feel that, but to me it feels like a step up in a lot of the aspects. Now you start out, you can play single player or two-player co-op. It's very easy to do. Just add a second controller and just jump into the game. And you're basically moving through stages initially from that side perspective, grabbing up weapons and things, but it changes quite quickly.
Yeah, it has quite a dynamic camera that will kind of zoom and almost like use dolly shots as it follows your characters around, sometimes going full-on bird's eye view, and you'll have to navigate passageways and what have you. Things that you don't necessarily see in some beat-em-ups, and it certainly adds a little bit to what is, I mean, it's a formula I love, don't get me wrong, but for some people may start to feel repetitive otherwise.
Now you've got your light and heavy attacks, which is quite standard. You've also got a special bar that's charged up with these small canisters.
Yeah, that's right, like vials, aren't they, of something.
Yeah, and then once you've got that full up, you can execute like a special move, which is different for absolutely every character.
Yeah, we should probably touch on the characters here. So there are 29 of them in total. You'll start with just one, but you'll find them trapped in cages as you make your way through each of the levels. Some very obvious, a fair few of the others off the beaten path. And half the fun is finding these characters actually. And once you've found them, you can then select them from that point onwards.
Now an interesting mechanic there is that once you do have them in the stage, it will show at the top of the screen that you now have 3 characters available, that you can then switch to a character to allow your current character to heal.
Yeah, it's similar to the mechanic used in some fighting games, like tag team fighting games, where you can switch out a character and they'll heal in the background and then switch them back in, tag them back in when you're ready. And it actually works very well. Again, it's something you don't see in beat-em-ups very often. It was a nice extra mechanic to think about.
So as you make your way through the stages, you're also collecting up small flowers. Now the game seems to have a slight obsession with sheep, and if you, well, I guess say hello to them, a little heart pops up, a load of flowers appear. It's not the only way you can get them, but there's a gauge that gradually fills, and when it's full up, a gift drops from the sky, giving you like a power-up or a weapon. We probably should talk about weapons, because it's quality, isn't it?
Yeah, there are a bunch of different weapon types that you'll find as you make your way across the game. Some are dropped by enemies, some are just there, some are kind of almost hidden in the background. You know, there'll be like you'll have a marshmallow on a stick in a campfire, but you can actually pick it up and use it. And it was really nice to see just the variety of weapon types in terms of melee and projectile, but then the specific weapons themselves, each with different, almost like elemental powers, some of them, weren't there?
There were, and each hero has a default weapon, but it also has almost a class type. So one will use those pole staffs, the other a massive slow hammer, and yeah, it's really nice the variety between those.
Yeah, not just that, but the characters all look different as well. You have some that are clearly based on, say, Shogun or samurai or more traditional knight in shining armor, King Arthur style. It's just very It's funny that it's not often you find a game that has different characters that aren't based on an IP that are as endearing or interesting as this. You know, generally they're all pretty much standard. You don't really care who you play as. I didn't feel like that here.
No, it was good. And on the subject of combat, you do have a variety of different enemies. It doesn't completely avoid the whole repetition thing. It's kind of part and parcel, isn't it, of the genre. But it does try to at least switch things up a little.
Yeah, and I will say it actually does do a better job than some beat-em-ups of keeping its enemy types varied. Even if it's just every other level a new one's introduced. And it's not just a new like palette swap or anything like that. It's a new enemy with a new attack pattern, like barrels that come to life that will roll towards you and things like this. I think there were 20 levels in total, so you know, to have a newish enemy introduced every other level, it just keeps things fresh.
In terms of the levels, that's probably the next best thing to talk about. Now, the stage variety is really solid. You go from like a lush forest, you've got this medieval area in a castle, there's one with pumpkins, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly, and you have kind of almost stereotypical night-styled levels, but with modern touches. Like you'll have characters in the foreground having brunch, sitting at a table, like there were a couple of unicorns or something, weren't there? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Just sitting there having a chat while we're fighting away, and there's like trophies for American football on the shelves of the castle as you're making your way through. It's a nice little just way of keeping the backgrounds varied and interesting.
The last aspect with these types of games have to be the boss fights. Now, at the end of the stage, and actually I have to say, leading up to the end of the stage, you will have mini bosses at times, and then at the end you get these proper health bar fights, as I like to call them.
Yeah, and sometimes your mini boss, in inverted commas, is like a survival area or wave based, where you're just having to take out a bunch of smaller enemies, and actually the difficulty picked up in these times to a nice a nice challenge, wasn't it, you know?
It really was, and you do have 3 difficulty modes. We should have said that probably at the start. You got easy, medium and hard, and we were on medium for this playthrough.
Yeah, we were. If you die during a level, if you're playing co-op, a lot of our experience was co-op. The vast majority was co-op. You'll have a time, like a cooldown period before you can re-enter. But don't forget, you do have those extra characters as long as you found them within a level that almost serve as extra lives, where, as we mentioned, if you are low on health, you can switch out, take a new character and allow that character to heal. One thing worth mentioning, because it's something that some people will look for or want to know about a beat-em-up, is there is an element of friendly fire. Your basic melee attacks don't hurt your partner. However, any projectile-based weapons that you pick up certainly do. And because some of these have almost like a splash damage, you know, there'll be like a poison weapon or a fire weapon. If your partner is in the vicinity of the enemies you're firing towards, it will hit them and it will hurt them. So it's just something to bear in mind. A bit of communication. Obviously, it's local play anyway. Just talk to each other, stay out of each other's way, and it can be negated quite easily.
Big Helmet Heroes is running in the Unreal 4 engine, and I think we're surprised to say that it actually looks really quite decent for the vast majority of your time. And it does maintain 30 frames per second a lot of the time. There are certain moves and things and certain hectic sections where you will see a few drops and stutters.
Yeah, I reckon it was about 5 levels in before it became a bit more than occasional stutters.
Yeah.
You know, like for the first 5 levels, a couple of drops, but nothing really. From that point, there was a particular boss fight, I seem to remember, where you started to notice it dropping a bit more, but there will be a day 1 patch coming to alleviate this issue.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the same thing. They've worked heavily on it, and you can even see from the build that we're on that they've done a heck of a lot of optimization. It looks way better than I expected.
Yeah, it has like almost like a plasticine style to it, which I do think works very well for this genre, and it's not something you see very often. Generally it's sprite based or it's hand drawn, and to have it in a 3D style and with that art style in particular, yeah, it's a really quite refreshing change for someone that plays beat 'em ups a lot. You know, I do play a lot of beat 'em ups. I really enjoyed this one, but I liked the aesthetic changes that they made to distance themselves from the competition.
Yeah, it's very polished, so all the characters feel quite unique, but they also have unique animations tied to them, which must have been a lot of work. Glen mentioned the foreground items as well. There's also characters that pop up and cheer you on at times in the foreground. Gives it that, like, I don't know, like TMNT kind of inspiration.
It does, yeah, absolutely. And Mark mentioned Castle Crashers earlier in terms of gameplay, and that's definitely probably the most similar game if you're looking to compare it to anything. But as Mark said himself, I do feel it does enough, not just to distance itself from Castle Crashers, but to take it on a step.
Yeah.
You know, obviously that came out a few years ago now, it's a very good game, but this almost has taken what was there and seen what else it could do. And it's succeeded in a lot of ways, to be fair.
How about that soundtrack then? That was also quite notable, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it obviously kind of ties into the period that it's aiming for in the medieval, albeit having said that, you know, it does move on to other genres, if you like, if that's the best word, later on in the game. But the music definitely responds to what you're seeing on screen and complements it. It's very kind of high octane, but quite jovial at the same time.
Yeah, there were a couple of tracks that did remind me of Donkey Kong, you know. There was this like tropical one we went into and I was like, oh man, this is nice.
Yeah, it definitely had that feeling to it. And everything here, as Mark again said, is just very polished.
On to price then. This one retails at, I believe, £21.99 here in the UK. It obviously has local co-op play. There's no online functionality as far as I can see.
I think it's one of those occasions where it's not the price is too high because of the quality of the game. I just think that the beat 'em up genre is very competitive in terms of pricing.
Yeah.
And it could have maybe done itself a favour by just dropping that down a tad to stand out a bit more in a very crowded market. But the price being asked for the quality of the game and the level of polish, I do think is fair. This is a very good game.
Absolutely, yeah. Well worth it, and on a sale you would be absolutely mad not to.
Yeah, you'd be laughing, definitely.
So that's it. Let us know what you think of Big Helmet Heroes. Probably don't want to say that one out loud too much. A pleasant surprise across the board.
Yeah. I mean, the day one patch is coming as well, so by the time this is out, hopefully just those drops have been fixed to a degree. If they could get it up to 60, it would be an absolute bargain. You know, the only thing really that's holding it back is that lack of 60. Maybe 4 players as well would have been nice, but you're still getting a very good game for your money for sure. Let us know what you think down below, and don't forget to let us know your favourite beat 'em up. Stick it down, and we will pick a couple of people at random to get a free copy of this game, a free code. Thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.